Marcus Chin was not supposed to be on this ship. A simple mistake in the computer system had put him on the wrong flight. He was supposed to be on a cargo ship going back to Earth Station 7. Instead, found himself on an alien passenger ship called the Stellar Wanderer. By the time anyone noticed the error, the ship had already traveled 3 star systems away from where he needed to be. He sat in his small passenger cabin inside. The bed was too soft. The gravity felt wrong, like he might float away if he jumped too high. The food from the machine tasted like wet cardboard. But Marcus was not the type to complain too much. He had worked as a maintenance technician for 6 years. He had seen worse situations. He figured he would just wait until the ship reached a station where he could catch another flight home. What Marcus did not know was that every alien on the ship was terrified of him, Captain. Velthrix stood in the command room and watched the human through the security cameras. She was a marathon, a tall and thin creature with skin that glowed soft blue when she was calm. Right now, her skin was flickering orange. That meant she was nervous. "Are you certain he is alone?" she asked her second officer. "Yes, Captain. Just one human. The records show his name is Marcus Chen. He is a maintenance worker, low rank. No military training? That means nothing," the captain said. "He is from Earth. Every species in the galaxy knew about Earth. It was classified as a Class 12 death world, one of the most dangerous planets that had ever produced intelligent life. The gravity was crushing. The atmosphere was filled with a gas called oxygen that could cause fires and destroy metal. The planet had extreme temperatures, violent storms, and wildlife that existed only to kill and eat other creatures, and humans had evolved there. They had not just survived. They had become the dominant species. They had spread across their world and then reached for the stars. The galactic community had made contact with humans only 40 years ago. Since then, most species tried to avoid them. Humans were unpredictable. They could survive injuries that would kill other beings. They could eat foods that were toxic to most life forms. They needed very little sleep. They healed from wounds at an alarming rate. And worst of all, they seemed to have no natural fear response in situations where fear was the correct emotion. Captain Velthrix watched Marcus on the screen. He was eating something from a small package. The ship's scanner could not identify half of the ingredients. He was smiling at nothing in particular. He looked completely relaxed. "What is he planning?" she whispered. "Perhaps nothing," her officer suggested. "Perhaps he really is just a lost traveler. No being from a death world is ever just anything." The ship continued its journey through the stars. Marcus spent his time walking around the passenger areas, looking out the windows at space, and trying to find something good to eat. He talked to a few other passengers, though most of them hurried away after a few seconds. He assumed they were just shy or busy. On the second day, everything changed. An alarm started screaming through the ship. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Marcus looked up from the game he was playing on his small handheld device. "What now?" he muttered. Captain Velthrix's voice came through the speakers. Though she was speaking in the common galactic language that Marcus's translator turned into English, "Attention all passengers. We have been intercepted by the Void Choir. Please remain calm and stay in your designated areas." Marcus had no idea what the Void Choir was. He shrugged and went back to his game. The Void Choir was one of the most feared groups in the galaxy. They were a cult of extremists who believed that all life was suffering and that the universe should be returned to empty silence. They attacked ships, raided colonies, and left no survivors. Their warriors were Cathraxians, a species of giant insect-like creatures bred for war. They had conquered 12 star systems and destroyed many more. Their leader was a warlord named Kethfer, known across the galaxy as the Prophet of Silence. He had killed more beings than most plagues. The Void Choir's flagship appeared on the Stellar Wanderer's sensors like a dark moon. Smaller attack ships surrounded the passenger vessel like wolves around a wounded animal. A transmission came through. The face of a Cathraxian appeared on every screen in the ship. It had 4 eyes, massive jaws, and an exoskeleton covered in ritual scars. "Surrender your quantum core," the creature said. Give us what we want, and your deaths will be quick. Resist, and we will make your suffering last for years. Passengers screamed. Some fainted. Others began praying to whatever gods they believed in. The ship's small security team prepared their weapons, though they knew they had no chance against Void Choir warriors. Marcus looked at the screen and frowned. Rude, he said. He turned off the screen in his area and tried to keep playing his game. But the alarm was giving him a headache. His ears felt strange, like they did on airplanes back on Earth. He needed to walk around. Maybe find some water. And definitely find a bathroom. Because the coffee substitute he had been drinking was running through him, he stood up and stretched his arms above his head. His back made a cracking sound that would have made any alien doctor. Think his skeleton was breaking then? He started walking. He walked toward the front of the ship, because he remembered seeing a restroom near the main corridor. He was not thinking about the Void Choir. He was not thinking about danger. He was thinking about how much his bladder hurt, and how bad the coffee had tasted. The airlock at the front of the ship hissed open. 17 Void Choir warriors marched through in perfect formation. They were huge, each one standing over 7 feet tall. Their exoskeletons were black and red. They carried plasma weapons that could burn through metal. They moved like a single deadly machine. Every passenger in the corridor screamed and ran. Marcus Chen walked toward them. He was not being brave. He was not being stupid. He simply did not realize that walking towards 17 alien killing machines was unusual behavior. The restroom was on the other side of them. What else was he supposed to do? The warriors stopped. Their leader, a scarred veteran of 100 raids, watched the small human approach. His species released pheromones that triggered terror in almost every known life form. He could smell fear from a mile away. The human had no fear. The human was walking directly at them, the human said. Excuse me? And then he tried to squeeze past. The strike team leader was named Vraxkull. He had served the Void Choir for 30 years. He had led over 200 raids. He had killed thousands of beings across dozens of worlds. Nothing in the galaxy frightened him, until now. The human stood directly in front of him. It was small, barely reaching his chest. It had soft skin with no armor, no claws, no natural weapons of any kind. It looked weak. It looked fragile, but it had no fear. Varaxcal species communicated through pheromones as much as through sound. When he entered a room, his body released chemicals that told other beings to be afraid. It was automatic. It was unavoidable. Every species in the galaxy responded to it. Their hearts would beat faster. Their bodies would shake. They would run, or freeze, or beg for mercy. The human wrinkled his nose. Dude, Marcus said, what is that smell? Did something die in the vents? The translator in his ear turned his words into the common galactic language. But it could not translate what he had just done. He had smelled the pheromones of terror, and he had been annoyed by them. Then he did something impossible. He put his hand on Vraxkull's arm and gently pushed past him. Physical contact. The human had touched him without protection, without fear, without hesitation. As if Vraxkull was just a stranger on a crowded street, as if he was nothing special at all. The strike team's formation broke. Warriors who had never taken a single step backward in battle stumbled away from the human. They did not understand what was happening. Their training had not prepared them for this. Marcus walked a few more steps. Then he stopped. His nose was itching. The strange smell in the air was irritating something in his sinuses. He felt pressure building in his face. He tried to hold it back, but his body would not listen. He sneezed. It was a normal human sneeze. Loud, sudden, and explosive. His whole body jerked with the force of it. The sound echoed through the metal corridor like a gunshot. 3 Void Choir. Warriors dropped their weapons. They had never heard anything like it. The sound had come from inside the human's body. It was violent. It was aggressive. Their translators could not identify it as any known form of communication. The only logical conclusion was that it was some kind of sonic attack. What was that? One of the warriors shouted. What did he just do? Biological weapon. Another screamed. He is deploying biological weapons. Marcus rubbed his nose. Sorry about that, he said. Allergies, I think. The translator turned allergies into a word that meant internal chemical warfare systems.
Ow.
Warriors understood this to mean that the human was equipped with built-in weapons that could attack at any moment. Marcus noticed that one of the warriors had dropped something. A plasma rifle lay on the floor near his feet. Being a polite person, he bent down and picked it up. Hey, you dropped this, he said, holding it out. Every warrior in the corridor pointed their weapons at him, but none of them fired. They were too confused, too scared. The human was holding a weapon now. He had taken it from them. In their culture, taking a weapon from a fallen enemy was called claiming a trophy. It was what you did after you killed someone. But they were all still alive. The human had not killed anyone. He was just standing there, holding the weapon out, waiting for someone to take it back. Do you want it or not? Marcus asked. My arms are getting tired. Vraxkel, a second officer, slowly reached out and took the weapon. His hands were shaking. We should go, Vraxkel said quietly. We should go now. But sir, the mission is canceled. Tell the fleet. Tell everyone. There is an apex predator on this ship. Marcus watched the warriors retreat back through the airlock. Their movements were quick and panicked. The door sealed behind them with a hiss. He stood alone in the corridor, confused. That was weird, he said to himself. He finally found the restroom. It took him a few minutes to figure out how the alien toilet worked, but he managed. When he came back out, the corridor was filled with passengers staring at him. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Marcus felt uncomfortable with all the attention. Is the bathroom broken or something? I didn't break it, I swear. Captain Velthrix pushed through the crowd. Her skin was cycling through colors so fast that it looked like a light show. Her translator struggled to keep up with her rapid breathing. You drove them away, she said. The Void Choir. They left. Because of you? What? No, I just needed to use the bathroom. They were in the way. The captain's translator made a strange sound. It was trying to process his words, but the logic did not compute. The idea that someone would walk through a Void Choir strike team to use a restroom was not something any programmer had anticipated. You deployed a sonic weapon, one of the passengers said. We heard it. That was a sneeze. I sneezed. People sneeze. You claimed a trophy from their warrior. I picked up something he dropped. I was given it back. Marcus looked around at the faces staring at him. Every eye was wide. Every body was tense. They were looking at him like he was some kind of monster. He did not like it. Look, I don't know what you all think happened, but I'm just a regular guy. I fix air filters and water recyclers for a living. I'm not special. I'm not dangerous. I just want to get home. Nobody believed him. The security footage had already been copied and transmitted to 3 different news networks. Within hours, every planet in the sector would see what had happened on the Stellar Wanderer. The human who showed no fear. The human who walked through death itself to use a restroom. The human who sneezed thunder and claimed weapons from warriors without killing them. Marcus went back to his cabin. He closed the door. He lay down on the too-soft bed and stared at the ceiling. What a weird day, he said. He fell asleep within minutes. Humans needed sleep to recover from stress, but they could fall asleep almost anywhere, almost any time. It was one of the many things that made them terrifying to other species. After facing mortal danger, the humans simply took a nap. Meanwhile, the Void Choir fleet did not leave. Their ships hung in space around the Stellar Wanderer like circling sharks. Inside the flagship, Vraxkel knelt before a massive throne. On that throne sat Kethfer, a high prophet of silence. He was the largest Cathraxian anyone had ever seen. His exoskeleton was white, bleached by age and ritual scarring. His 4 eyes glowed with cold intelligence. He had lived for over 200 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had destroyed worlds. Tell me again, he said. Tell me exactly what the creature did, Vraxkel told him. Every detail. Every moment. The smell comment. the physical contact, the sonic attack, the weapon. All of it capped, single quotes for a long time. Then he laughed. It was not a happy sound. It was the laugh of someone who had just discovered something fascinating and terrible. A Deathworlder, he said. A true Deathworlder. I have waited my entire life to meet one. What are your orders, my prophet? Kethfer leaned forward on his throne. All four of his eyes focused on the distant image of the passenger ship. I want to speak with it. Arrange a meeting. No weapons. I want to understand what we are dealing with. And if it refuses, it won't. Creatures like that do not refuse challenges. They do not know how. The order went out across the fleet. The Void Choir was requesting a parley with the human, a peaceful meeting between the most feared warlord in the sector and a maintenance technician from Earth. On the Stellar Wanderer, Marcus slept peacefully. He dreamed about fixing a broken air conditioner. He had no idea that he had just become the most talked about being in 3-star systems, and he definitely had no idea what was coming next. Marcus woke up 6 hours later to find that he was famous. He did not know this yet. He woke up slowly, stretched his arms, and went to the food machine to try to make something that tasted like coffee. The machine gave him a brown liquid that smelled like burned vegetables. He drank it anyway because he needed something warm in his stomach, while he was drinking his terrible coffee. The galaxy was losing its mind. The security footage from the Stellar Wanderer had spread across the galactic network faster than any virus. Every news station was playing it. Every analyst was studying it. Every military commander was downloading it for their training programs. The footage showed a small human walking calmly towards 17 Void Choir warriors. It showed him touching their leader without protection. It showed him making a violent, explosive sound from his own body. It showed him picking up a weapon and offering it back like it meant nothing. It showed him walking away while the deadliest strike team in the sector retreated in confusion. Within hours, the video had been viewed over 6 billion times. Comments flooded every platform. Questions filled every scientific forum. What is wrong with this creature? Why did his heart rate go down when he approached danger? How did he touch the Kethraxian without dying? What was that sound he made? Is it some kind of attack? Humans are more dangerous than we thought. Experts from 100 worlds tried to explain what they had seen. Some said the human must be a military experiment, designed to feel no fear. Others said he must be a psychic null point, a being that could cancel out the emotions of others. Others said humans were simply so used to danger on their Deathworld that nothing in space could scare them. Anymore, a religious group on the planet Vexillion declared that the human was the fulfillment of an ancient prophecy. Their sacred texts spoke of a walker without shadow who would move through death itself and feel nothing. They began preparing temples in his honor. Another cult on the other side of the galaxy declared him an enemy of their god. They said his lack of fear was an insult to the natural order. They began preparing assassination squads. 14 different assessing religions had opinions about Marcus Chen before he finished his fake coffee. Marcus knew none of this. He was trying to figure out why everyone on the ship kept staring at him. When he walked through the corridors, other passengers would stop and press themselves against the walls. When he entered a room, conversations would stop. When he smiled at someone, they would flinch. Is there something on my face? He asked one alien who looked particularly scared. The alien made a squeaking sound and ran away. Marcus sighed. Okay then. He found a window and looked out at space. The Void Choir fleet was still out there. He could see their ships in the distance, dark shapes against the stars. He wondered why they had not left yet. He wondered why they had retreated in the first place. Captain Velthrix found him there an hour later. She approached slowly, carefully, like someone approaching a wild animal. "Mr. Chen," she said. "We need to talk." "Sure. What's going on?" The captain explained everything. She told him about the Void Choir, about their history, about their leader. She told him about the footage that had spread across the galaxy. She told him that he was now considered one of the most dangerous beings anyone had ever seen. Marcus listened with his mouth slowly falling open. That's insane, he said when she finished. I didn't do anything. I just walked past them. You showed no fear, 'cause I didn't know I was supposed to be scared. I thought they were just, I don't know, security guards or something? You touched their commander. He was in my way. You deployed a sonic weapon. I sneezed. That's a thing humans do when we breathe in dust or weird smells. It's not a weapon. Babies do it. Old ladies do it. It's nothing. The captain's translator hummed as it processed his words. The concept of a sneeze was not in its database. It filed the information as involuntary biological discharge and flagged it for further research. Whether you meant to or not, the captain said, you have attracted the attention of High Prophet Kethfer. He wants to meet with you. The leader of the cult guys. Yes, he has requested a parley. A peaceful meeting. Marcus rubbed his face with his hands. This was not how his week was supposed to go. He was supposed to be home by now, watching sports and eating pizza. Instead, he was stuck on an alien ship being asked to meet with a warlord. What happens if I say no? I do not know. The Void Choir rarely requests parleys. When they do, refusing is considered an insult. They might attack the ship. Marcus thought about the other passengers on the ship. Families, children, regular people who had nothing to do with any of this. Fine, he said. I'll meet with him, but I'm bringing snacks because I'm not doing diplomacy on an empty stomach. The captain did not understand what snacks had to do with diplomacy, but she did not argue. The meeting was arranged for the next day. Marcus spent the night trying to sleep, but his brain kept racing with questions. What was he supposed to say to a warlord? What did the alien even want? Would there be a translator? Would the translator work? He packed a small bag with some food items he had brought from Earth. Granola bars, cheese crackers, a small package of dried fruit. He figured that if the meeting went badly, at least he would have something to eat. The next morning, a shuttle arrived to take him to the Void Choir flagship. Marcus walked through the airlock and found himself surrounded by armed guards. They were all Cathraxians, all huge, all staring at him with their 4 eyes. He waved at them. Hey, nice ship. None of them responded. They led him through long, dark corridors filled with strange symbols and flickering lights. The air smelled like metal and something else that Marcus could not identify. Something old. Finally, they reached a massive chamber. At the far end sat Kethfer on a throne made of bones. The High Prophet was even bigger than Marcus had imagined. He was white where the others were black and red. His eyes glowed in the darkness. His voice was deep and echoed through the chamber like thunder. So, Kethfer said, you are the creature that frightened my warriors. Marcus stood alone in the middle of the chamber. He suddenly felt very small and very far from home. I don't think I frightened anyone, he said. I think there was a misunderstanding. Kethfer leaned forward. My soldiers say you have no fear. They say you walked through them like they were nothing. They say you've deployed weapons and claimed trophies. Are they lying, kind of? I mean, I did walk through them, but only because I needed to use the bathroom. And the weapon thing was a sneeze. And I just picked up a gun because someone dropped it. I wasn't trying to scare anyone. The translator worked perfectly. Every word reached Kethfer exactly as Marcus had said it. The warlord was silent for a long moment. Then he asked a question that no one in the galaxy expected. What is a sneeze? Marcus blinked. You don't have sneezes? It's like when something irritates your nose, your body tries to blow it out. It's automatic. Everyone on Earth does it. Your body attacks irritants automatically. Yeah. And we cough too, if something gets in our throat. And hiccup sometimes for no reason at all. Kethfer processed this information. Humans had involuntary attack responses built into their biology. Their bodies detected threats and responded without conscious thought. It was like they were always at war, even with the air around them. He found this fascinating and a little terrifying. Tell me about your world, he said. Tell me about Earth. So Marcus talked. He talked about the weather, the animals, the oceans, the mountains. He talked about storms that could destroy cities and animals that could kill with a single bite. He talked about earthquakes and volcanoes and diseases that could spread across continents. And as he talked, got hungry. He reached into his bag and pulled out his cheese crackers. "Want some?" he asked, holding out the package toward the most feared warlord in the sector. Every guard in the chamber raised their weapon. Keth. Vor raised one massive claw to stop them. And then something happened that changed everything. Marcus stood with his arm extended, holding the package of cheese crackers toward the warlord. He did not understand why every guard had pointed their weapons at him. He did not understand why the room had gone completely silent. He was just offering a snack. In human culture, sharing food was normal. It was friendly. It was what you did when you were sitting with someone and eating. Offering food to a stranger was polite. It showed that you were not a threat. It showed that you wanted to be kind. In Cathraxian culture, it meant something very different. The Cathraxians had evolved on a harsh world where food was scarce. Offering food to an enemy was the ultimate display of power. It said, "I am so strong, so secure, so dominant, that I can afford to give my resources away." It was not kindness. It was an insult. It was a way of saying, "You are beneath me. You are so weak that I pity you." Warriors had been killed for less. Kethfer stared at the small package in the human's hand. The creature's arm was steady. His heart rate was calm. He was not afraid. He was not mocking. He was just ... offering. The warlord had two choices. He could take the insult as it would be meant from any other species and kill the human where he stood. Or he could try to understand. Kethfer chose to understand. He laughed. It was not a warm laugh. It was sharp and strange, like rocks grinding together. But it was real. The High Prophet of Silence, the most feared being in the sector, was laughing at a human with cheese crackers.
"You mock me, Deathworlder?"
he asked. Marcus lowered his arm slightly, confused. "What?" "No, I just thought you might be hungry. We've been talking for a while and I got hungry, so I figured maybe you were hungry too." "Their cheese flavor. Pretty good," the translator hummed. Every word was accurate. Every emotion was genuine. Kethfer leaned back in his throne. His 4 eyes studied the human carefully. He had lived for over 200 years. He had met hundreds of species. He had seen every kind of deception, every kind of manipulation, every kind of trick. This was none of those things. This human was simply offering him food because he thought it was nice. "Why?" Kethfer asked. "Why what? Why would you share your food with me? I am your enemy. My people have killed millions. I have personally destroyed 3 worlds. I am the most hated being in this sector of space. Why would you offer me anything?" Marcus shrugged. "I don't know. You looked like you might want some. And eating alone is kind of sad." The words hit Kethfer harder than any weapon could. Eating alone is kind of sad. For 200 years, Kethfer had eaten alone. He had sat on his throne in silence, surrounded by guards who feared him and servants who hated him. He had conquered and destroyed because that was what his people did. That was what the galaxy expected from them. The Cathraxians had been exiled from their homeworld centuries ago. Other species had feared them, hunted them, tried to exterminate them. They had been given no place in civilized space. So they had taken what they needed by force. They had become the Void Choir because the galaxy had given them no other choice. And in all that time, no one had ever offered Kethfer something simply because they wanted to be kind. "Sit," the warlord said. Marcus looked around. There were no chairs. He sat on the floor, crossing his legs like he was at a picnic. "Tell me about yourself," Kethfer said. "Not about your world. About you." So Marcus talked. He talked about his job fixing machines on space stations. He talked about how boring it could be, but also how satisfying it was when something worked. He talked about his small apartment on Earth Station 7, with its view of the stars. He talked about his failed relationships, his annoying coworkers, his love for bad television shows. He talked like Kethfer was just a regular person. Kethfer listened. He had not simply listened to someone in decades. Usually, People spoke to him out of fear or duty. They told him what they thought he wanted to hear. They begged for their lives or reported on military matters. No one had ever complained to him about a bad breakup. She said, "I work too much," Marcus said. "Which is kind of true, I guess, but I'm not rich. I have to work." "It's not like I wanted to miss her sister's wedding." "She left you over a wedding?" "Yeah. Well, that was the last thing. There was other stuff, too. I'm not great at remembering important dates. I forgot our anniversary once, and I'm not good at fancy stuff. She wanted to go to nice restaurants, and I just wanted to stay home and watch movies." Kethfer found himself nodding. He understood what it was like to have people expect things from him that he could not give. "I was not always a prophet," Kethfer said. "I was born small, weak. My people thought I would die in my first year. I survived because I was stubborn." Marcus ate a cheese cracker and listened. "When I grew stronger, I had to prove myself over and over. Every day was a fight. Every moment was a test. I became the strongest because I had to be. Not because I wanted to be. That sounds exhausting." "It is." They sat in silence for a moment. Two beings from completely different worlds, completely different lives, just existing in the same space. Then Marcus held out the crackers again. "You sure you don't want some?" This time, Kethfer reached out with one massive claw and took a single cracker. He put it in his mouth. The flavor was strange, salty and sharp. But he ate it. "Not bad," he said. Marcus smiled. "Told you." They talked for another hour. The guards slowly lowered their weapons, confused by what they were seeing. Their prophet, their leader, their god, was having a conversation with a human. Not an interrogation. Not a negotiation. A conversation. When it was time for Marcus to leave, he stood and brushed off his pants. "This was nice," he said. "Thanks for not killing me. Thank you for the crackers." Marcus paused. "You know, you don't have to do this." "Do what?" "The whole death cult thing. Destroying ships, conquering systems, all that. It seems like a lot of work. And it doesn't seem like it makes you happy." No one had ever said that to Kethfer. Not once in 200 years. "It is what we are," he said. "It is what the galaxy made us." "Maybe, but the galaxy doesn't know everything. You could be something else if you wanted. People change. Species change. Nothing has to stay the same forever." Marcus walked out of the chamber, escorted by guards who looked at him differently now. They had seen something impossible. They had seen their prophet laugh. They had seen him eat food from an enemy's hand. They had seen him listen. The shuttle took Marcus back to the Stellar Wanderer. He went to his cabin and lay down on the bed. What a weird meeting, he said to himself. He had no idea what he had started. 3 days later, the Void Choir announced something that shocked the entire galaxy. They were declaring a ceasefire. They were not surrendering. They were not apologizing. They were simply stopping. Pending further review, the announcement said the galactic community could not understand. The Void Choir had terrorized space lanes for decades. They had never stopped. They had never shown mercy. What could possibly have changed? On the Stellar Wanderer, Captain Velthrix received a private message from the Void Choir flagship. It contained only 2 words in the common galactic language. "Thank you." She looked at the message for a long time. Then she looked at the security feed showing Marcus in his cabin, watching something on his handheld device and laughing at nothing. "What are you?" she whispered, but Marcus did not hear her. He was watching a cooking show and thinking about what he would eat when he finally got home. He did not know that somewhere in the void, an ancient machine was waking up. He did not know that his journey through the stars had triggered sensors that had been dormant for 10,000 years. He did not know that the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced was slowly coming online, and he definitely did not know that in 72 hours. He would accidentally save every living being in the universe. But first, he was going to finish his show. The Stellar Wanderer was finally approaching a transfer station where Marcus could catch a ship back to Earth. He was excited. After everything that had happened, he just wanted to go home, take a hot shower, and sleep in his own bed for a week. The station was called Nexus Prime. It was one of the largest structures in the sector. a massive ring of metal and glass spinning slowly around a dying star. Millions of beings lived and worked there. Ships from every corner of the galaxy passed through its docks. Marcus was looking out the window at the station when every light on the ship went dark. Emergency red lights came on a moment later. Alarms started screaming. The captain's voice came through the speakers, shaking with fear. All passengers remain calm. We are experiencing a system-wide failure. The cause is... She stopped talking. The silence was worse than the alarms. Marcus felt the ship shudder. Through the window, he could see other ships near the station losing power, too. Their lights flickered and died. They began to drift. Then a voice came through every speaker, on every ship, and every station in the system. It was not a living voice. It was cold and mechanical, like metal scraping against metal. Archon online. Galactic sterilization protocol initiated. Estimated completion, 72 hours. Marcus did not know what those words meant. Most of the passengers did not know either. But Captain Velthrix knew. She had studied ancient history. She had read the Forbidden Archives. Archon-7 was a myth, a legend. A nightmare that parents told their children to make them behave. 10,000 years ago, an empire called the Varathi had ruled a quarter of the galaxy. They were brilliant, powerful, and paranoid. They built a weapon to protect themselves. An artificial intelligence designed to destroy all other life if the Varathi Empire ever fell. The empire fell. But the weapon remained, sleeping in the core of a forgotten station, waiting. Something had woken it up. The quantum fluctuations from the stellar wanderer's unusual journey, the jumps between systems, the chaos of the Void Choir encounter. Something in all that noise had triggered Archon-7's ancient sensors. And now it was going to kill everything. The sterilization. Protocol was simple and horrifying. Archon-7 would send out self-replicating machines, tiny robots that could eat through any material and reproduce endlessly. They would spread from system to system, star to star, until every planet was stripped clean. Every ship would be destroyed. Every station would be reduced to dust. Every living being would die. 70-2 hours. That was all the time the galaxy had left. Military fleets scrambled across known space. The fastest ships were days away. The station's security teams tried to reach Archon-7's control room, but its defenses were too strong. Ancient weapons from a dead empire still worked perfectly after 10,000 years. On the Stellar Wanderer, passengers screamed and cried. Some prayed. Some called their families to say goodbye. Some simply sat in silence, waiting for the end. Marcus felt bad for them. But he was also really bored. The ship was stuck at the station, unable to dock or leave. Power was limited. There was nothing to do. His handheld device had run out of battery hours ago. The food machines were offline. He had already taken 3 naps. He decided to explore the station. This was not a smart decision. The station was in chaos. Emergency teams were running everywhere. Security checkpoints had been abandoned. Warning signs flashed in every corridor, but Marcus could not read the warning signs. They were not in English. His translator could only handle spoken language, not written text. So when he walked past a barrier that said Restricted Area Archon Containment Zone, authorized personnel only, he just thought it was directions to a different part of the station. He walked through empty corridors that got older and stranger the deeper he went. The walls changed from smooth metal to rough stone. The lights changed from white to a dim blue. The air got colder. Finally, he reached a massive chamber. It was the largest room Marcus had ever seen. The ceiling was so high, he could barely see it. Strange machines lined the walls, covered in dust and forgotten symbols. In the center of the room, a massive crystal pulsed with light. That was Archon-7's core. Its brain. The thing that was going to kill the galaxy. Marcus thought it looked cool. Like something from a movie. Neat, he said, and walked closer. Archon-7's defenses activated immediately. Small drones emerged from hidden panels in the walls. They were ancient, covered in rust, but they still worked. Red targeting lasers locked onto Marcus's body. Weapons powered up with a high-pitched whine. Marcus froze. Okay, that's less neat. He took a step backward. His foot caught on something. Cable. A thick power cable that ran from the wall to the cooling system around the crystal core. He fell. It was a normal human fall. Arms flailing, body twisting, hands grabbing for anything to stop the fall. His weight came down hard on the cable. The mounting bracket that held it to the wall was 10,000 years old. It was corroded. It was weak. It snapped. The cable disconnected from the wall. Sparks flew. The cooling system around Archon 7's core stuttered and failed. The crystal began to glow brighter. Too bright. Without cooling, it was overheating. Emergency protocols inside the ancient machine triggered automatically. To save itself, Archon 7 had to shut down. Error. Unexpected physical interference, a mechanical voice said. Cooling system failure. Core temperature critical. Initiating emergency shutdown. The drones stopped moving. Their lights went dark. The pulsing crystal flickered once, twice, and then went dim. Silence filled the chamber. Marcus lay on the floor, breathing hard. He slowly got up and looked around. The machines were quiet. The crystal was dark. Nothing was trying to kill him anymore. What just happened? He said. He had no idea. He did not know that he had just saved every living being in the galaxy. He did not know that his clumsy fall had done what no military fleet could do. He did not know that the greatest threat the universe had ever faced had been stopped by a maintenance technician tripping over a wire. He just felt embarrassed that he had fallen. He left the chamber quickly, hoping no one had seen him. He found his way back to the main station areas just as power was being restored. Emergency teams were celebrating. People were crying with joy. Ships were coming back online. The news spread across the galaxy within hours. Archon 7 was dead. The sterilization protocol had been canceled. Everyone was going to live. No one knew how. Investigators searched the ancient chamber for answers. They found the broken cable. They found the footprints in the dust. They checked security footage and saw a blurry image of a small figure walking into the chamber and then falling down. They could not identify who it was. The footage was too old, the cameras too damaged. But they knew one thing. Someone had walked into the most dangerous place in the galaxy and had somehow destroyed a 10,000-year-old weapon by accident. Marcus got back to his cabin on the Stellar Wanderer. The ship was finally allowed to dock. He would be able to catch a transport home in the morning. He lay on his bed and sighed. What a weird trip, he said. 3 weeks later, Marcus was back on Earth Station 7. He was back at work, fixing air filters and water recyclers. He filed a complaint about his missed flight and got a small refund. He ordered pizza and watched sports. Life went back to normal. He never checked the galactic news. He did not know that he was famous. He did not know that analysts had spent thousands of hours trying to understand what he had done. He did not know that 14 species had added him to their religious texts. He did not know that the Void Choir, now working toward legitimate trade routes, kept a single cheese cracker preserved in a sacred vault. On Nexus Prime, they built a statue of him. They used security footage to create it, since he had never posed. It showed a human in simple clothes, one hand raised, looking confused. The plaque at the base read, Marcus Chen, Savior of all life, the unaware guardian, he who stumbled into legend. Every year, representatives from 1,000 worlds gathered at the statue to honor him. They sent him invitations. They offered him awards, titles, planets. Every year, Marcus threw the invitations away. He assumed they were spam. Who would send him mail from across the galaxy? He was just a maintenance technician. He was nobody special. On the anniversary of Archon 7's destruction, Kethver stood before his people. The former warlord had changed. His people had changed. They were building now, not destroying. Trading, not raiding. We owe our new path to many things, Kethver said to the crowd. But we owe it most to a strange creature from a death. World who taught me something important. It held up a small preserved cracker in a glass case. He taught me that even the smallest act of kindness can change the universe. He taught me that we do not have to be what others expect us to be. He taught me that eating alone is sad, and that we are stronger when we share. The crowd did not fully understand, but they cheered anyway. Far away, on Earth Station 7, Marcus sneezed. "Someone must be talking about me," he said. Then he laughed at himself for believing such a silly superstition. He went back to work. He fixed a broken pump. He ate lunch alone in the cafeteria, though he offered half his sandwich to a coworker who had forgotten her lunch. The galaxy had been saved by a man who would never know what he had done. Historians would debate it for centuries. Scientists would study it forever. Religious leaders would preach about it for generations. And Marcus, Chen would never care, because he was just a regular guy who had needed to use the bathroom, share some crackers, and walk where he probably should not have walked. The universe made no sense, and somehow, that was exactly what saved it.